Hey everybody, it is Pete from Another Fishing Show. We are back for another gripping edition of Another Fishing Podcast.
Gripping?
Yeah, gripping, like as in to hold something.
Oh, okay.
Hold an audience.
This isn't another fishing show. This is Another Fishing Show.
What's up, fisher people?
Hey, fisher people.
You want to talk fishing?
I imagine that's why, they want to listen fishing.
Right. But they can talk, we just won't know what they're saying, I guess. But anyway, we're doing podcast episode 14. Who knew we'd get this far? I'm getting kind of emotional.
Yeah, I mean, I got to really credit you. There was a time when we started this podcast adventure where I was really beginning to wonder if we were ever going to get on iTunes or Spotify or any platform for that matter, any kind of podcasting platform. We were saying we had a podcast, but really we were only on YouTube.
Yeah, we had a video vlog of sorts.
But boy, you really took the bull by the horns, Wagner. And
Well, you know what I did? I realized I couldn't do it for free, is essentially what happened, so now I'm paying for it.
Well, I guess we're paying for it.
Right.
I mean, I should pay for it as well.
Right. So, but that was kind of my battle was, I'm not adept at such things, but essentially I had to learn how to design a website and then create an RSS feed, which is what iTunes requires, and then everything moved along quickly, but I will plug whatever book I had. The book was titled How to Create a Podcast on WordPress.
There you go.
Basically,
Captivating title.
Yeah, basically walk through every single step, click by click by click, until it was up and running. And then after you repeat that process 2 or 3 times, you start to think, oh yeah, okay, I kind of see how this works. So we're getting there. There's still a couple of things I'm trying to tweak on iTunes, like the descriptions and everything seem to come up a little wonky. But yeah, I was like, God, I want to get this out here. Like, what are we doing it for if we're not going to be doing it?
Right.
So now we have an official podcast, and
it's awesome because on my I listen to podcasts. I listen to like Joe Rogan and some different podcasts, but it's awesome to see Another Fishing Show, our logo on there, and we can listen to our podcast now on iTunes.
It's awesome. Or
just
Spotify.
your app on your phone. Yeah, Spotify. What else? Where else can they listen to it?
I don't even know. I mean, that Spotify
goes
and
everywhere.
iTunes, it covers a huge swath. I think TuneIn.
Oh yeah, TuneIn Radio.
Well,
it's
I
on
think
TuneIn Radio as well.
Well, I think we have to take an extra step to make that happen. So I think that's next on the agenda. I'm kind of knocking them out one at a time.
Right.
Part of it's figuring out what people listen to, so they let you know. But the book I had kind of referenced, hey, here's 4 or 5 other sites where iTunes doesn't cover this one. So if you want to get them out there, you have to sort of reset everything. And when you do that, the beautiful thing about iTunes is once you upload it to iTunes, it uploads it everywhere. So it's a one-step process.
Yeah.
So if you start creating new places where it's at, then that is a multi-step process. So for me, I'm taking this info and editing it down, getting it ready for YouTube, and then I'm taking that info and creating it on iTunes. And then for every other place we're going to put it, I have to replicate that, and then it starts to turn into a long process. So I'm trying to streamline as much as possible. But again, if somebody is wanting to hear us somewhere where they can't, let me know and I'll figure out a way.
Yeah, let us go to our YouTube channel and let us know in the comments.
Yeah, it's the least we can do.
Probably the best way to do it.
For listening to us. I mean, my God, they should be getting paid essentially.
Yes, agreed. But I just wanted to say kudos for you for taking the bull by the horns. You made that Another Fishing Podcast website. You got the ball rolling, and here we are. I feel like this is a legitimate thing now.
It is. We're actually getting like iTunes subscribers too, sort of separate from everything else, which is kind of nice.
That's what I was going to ask you. So how do you know if this thing is growing?
If you use our Gmail, well, iTunes Connect is the website. And you can go look at analytics there if you want.
Okay. So that tells you, like, for instance, like Joe Rogan's podcast is known as the most popular podcast in the world. Like, it's
right.
How does he know? How do advertisers, sponsors, whatever, how do they know how well he's doing? There's not like it's not like YouTube where you see how many subscribers someone has or how many views. Like, well, where do you see it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. iTunes Connect is a separate website where you go to manage your podcasts. So you could have multiple podcasts, and you can look at analytics for each one. But a lot of podcasts operate on a website for business, which technically we could. That website is Another Fishing Podcast, where you'll find all that stuff, and the YouTube videos are there too. You can just set up your website to crank out money, which is what the big boys do, because they want to get off a platform where somebody else is pinching them for it.
Right.
But it's the same thing. Like, you have to use keywords when you're building a podcast on WordPress, and then those keywords work with Google to help people find your podcasts or on the podcasting. So, and I don't even know all the details there. I'm just throwing out a bunch of YouTube style keywords trying to cover my bases.
Okay.
So I'm sure there's ways to tune that stuff in, but I'll send you a link to that website, and you can, if you look at our email, log into our Another Fishing Show email.
Yeah.
You'll see WordPress things when people log on, or people like specific podcasts, or we get an email every time right now, which will only work for so long, because when this podcast gets huge, we're not going to be able to manage that many emails. Did you just laugh?
No, I said yeah. I went in my head.
You went, yeah?
I went yeah.
Yeah, because it sounded like.
No, what are you, dude? Do you want to know how much money I've spent and time on this thing? Like, seriously, like, honestly, this wall behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, this wall behind me costs $1,000. I've got sound dampening.
To be fair,
they're called acoustic blankets. I got one there. I got one there. I got one there.
Right, but that was for a real job you were doing that for.
Yes and no. Yes
it's
and
kind
no.
Of just.
I saw benefits to both. Go ahead.
When it's not a studio, can you just put furniture in there and it looks normal?
No,
I haven't seen it.
So basically, what my wife and I came up with an agreement that she would allow me to have this area as a studio. So basically, I would say this is like, it's probably half the basement. I get like half the basement.
Is that where
studio.
that table was? That table was we got wasted with Vern that one time?
Right. Yes, in
That's
that
right
area.
Where the studio is?
Was it there? No, it's actually the bigger part of the basement.
Oh, okay.
So
sure.
where we got drunk with my father-in-law was an adjoining.
The studio's named after.
Yep, the Vern Olson studio. This is it.
Right.
So the area we have like we've set up a little bedroom. So that's my wife's area. So
okay.
So it's like I get half of the basement. She gets the other half.
Well, it's all about compromise,
That's how you make a successful marriage.
Right, and both of us are experts in that. That's for sure.
Hey, coming up on 4 years, man.
Wow, that's crazy.
Couldn't be happier.
That's crazy. That was 4 years ago, huh?
Isn't that nuts, dude? That is. I can't get over how time flies. Like it's actually a bit scary.
Right. That's why we appreciate when people spend their precious time watching our channel or listening to our podcast.
Or making comments, whether nice or not. The fact that you are engaged enough to make a comment, we appreciate it. And
we do.
The thing is that I don't want to waste anybody's time. I want to make it, and we're getting there. I want to make we can call it a product. That sounds a little bit too cold and it's not the best term.
Right.
But we're trying to make something that is unique and that you're not wasting your time. Maybe you can get something out of it as far as informational, but educational. I think we try to concentrate more on the entertaining side of things is what I'm trying to say.
Every now and again we might learn something and pass it on, but it would be purely random.
Yeah.
So, just to update where the world is right now, we're in Minnesota, United States of America, our favorite place in the world.
That's right, but that's the great thing about this whole internet thing, Pete. We're worldwide, baby. This could be a worldwide thing.
It's a beautiful thing, and we're slowly creeping out of the depths of spring. And
boy, it's been a slow crawl, I'll tell you that.
Oh my God! We had a couple of days that just taunted us. But so what we had tried to do a couple of times already this season was hopefully fishing for red horse in the Root River among a variety of other species. There's like a 2-week period that's like if you enjoy just putting a worm on a hook and throwing a split shot out there and reeling in something different every 10 minutes, it literally is like the biggest fishing bonanza I've ever experienced in my entire life, other than seeing 300 sunnies around a dock and catching one after the other.
Yeah.
On
a plain hook or a blade of grass.
Right, whatever. So that really is like my favorite time of year because this thing is it happens so quick and it's so intense, and I try and get down there 3 or 4 times, and it's usually I run out of time. And a lot of times weather doesn't allow you to get there. But anyway, we're shooting for this weekend, and the river levels are looking amazing. We're supposed to see a little bit of rain tomorrow, but it's been cold, and I don't know what triggers it usually, right? I've seen it happen as early as mid-April and as late as mid-May. So I've never figured out exactly what kicks that in. But we're going to go over there Saturday. It's supposed to be 70 and no clouds in the sky, which makes zero difference to the fishing.
That might get them really wound up.
Yeah, so if it is on, and I can't imagine it's not, it has to be close. I'm seeing it all over the country on just like different sort of rough fish pages where people are like Michigan is on fire.
Rough Fish Nation, y'all.
Yo, bring it on. We love our suckers.
So that's the thing. So it's red horse suckers. These are red horse suckers.
There's 4 or 5 species of red horse. There's hognose. There's white, which I know both of us are big fans of. There's brown rainbow trout. There's shovel-nosed sturgeon.
I thought there were 7 species of red horse.
Well, there's 7 species of suckers. I don't think they're all red horse.
Okay.
I think you count the hognose and the white.
And it's not hognose. You want to say hognose. It's hogsucker.
I know. What is it?
Hogsucker.
Northern hogsucker.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think hognose is just a cute nickname. Right. And I think when I misidentify rough fish, it gets the rough fish crowd fired up.
Dude,
and I enjoy that too.
They're going to lynch you, man.
I know. They're going to come to my house and tear me apart. But then there's walleye and sauger and smallies in that mix too. And mooneye. So like I've had days where I've 10 species. It's really crazy, awesome. And it's a ton of fun. So hopefully, if everything happens correctly, like my family's just been on and off being sick, and right now my wife is terribly sick.
Oh my goodness, man!
And previous to that, it was my daughter, and now I'm trying to avoid it myself. I'm just like locked in my studio right now.
That's the thing when you have kids, dude.
I know.
I don't have children, so I see it with my brother. My brother has 3 kids. They go to school, and they get infected. They
just bring it home.
The school's like a big petri dish.
Yeah,
and then
they don't get affected as bad, and then you'll get the same thing, and it's like a week and a half of agony.
Just tears you up.
Yeah, the kids are just like, I got a sore throat for a day and a half.
And that's super stressful because if you're trying to get this timing right on the sucker spawn.
I'm terrified of it, man.
Because
I'm terrified.
If you want to hit the peak, boy, it's a narrow little window, isn't it?
It's like boom, boom. It really is. And it's different types of suckers at different times. So you'll go one day and it's all one kind of sucker. You go another day, it's all a different kind of sucker.
God,
it's really
cool.
It's bizarre, yeah.
And the people, too, need to realize if you haven't done this before, I would say most, if not all, I would say all rivers in North America have suckers in them.
Yeah.
They have suckers in them.
The cleaner usually the better as far as numbers goes. I think these things run out of the Mississippi, but honestly I don't know. They just disappear in the summertime. But keep this in mind. This is where they do the Rough Fish Roundup, which is a really great event. They do it every year, and it's a contest based off of, we have an episode about it, our first episode, I guess, of all time.
Right.
It's based off of how many different species you can catch, and they broke the world record golden red horse 2 years consecutive.
Right.
You know what? And just on that weekend.
Right, on the Root River in Minnesota.
Yeah, and you think about how many people are probably catching these fish and just don't know, because the golden red horse is not a giant fish. It was like 4 pounds or something was the world record. But you catch a 4-pound golden, and someone think that's a small carp, and they just throw it back, you know. So
or throw it on the bank.
Yeah, right.
How many people
Get rid
are
of
doing that, unfortunately?
Yeah, ironically, the browns, the brown trout are the invasive species down there, and the
Right.
and the red horse have been around for eons.
Yeah, great point.
But yeah, so hopefully we'll get on some action there and just spend a full day. Like my other favorite part about it is that you're literally just chilling out. Like I have this favorite island I go to every year. You have to wade out to it, so if it's too deep, you can't get to the island.
Yeah.
But once you get out there, it's just sort of limestone rock. And then you set up a chair, you set up a rod holder, you have a cooler. You're basically setting up this place to live for 12 hours.
That's great.
And then you just maul it. So, yeah, fingers crossed on that one. Everything seems to be lining up correctly, but the fish have to cooperate too, so we do not know what's going to happen there. So.
Well, the other thing too that I think people need to realize too, if you've never sucker fished, and just the term sucker, I think people it's just.
I think it's a derogatory term.
It really kind of is.
I think we should come up with a different name.
It doesn't do the fish justice because, especially red horse. They're especially in the spring, they have their spawning colors on. They're beautiful fish, and they fight like hell. They
crazy.
Absolutely fight like hell. They deserve way more respect.
And masters of current. Like I've
Right.
never seen even trout
Muscles.
like these. Yeah, these red horse dig in and they find current and they just torture you. Like I don't use over 6 or 8 pound tests sometimes. But if you get a 6 or 7 pound fish, I mean, good luck. It's almost impossible with the current. It's more like hauling in a 15 pounder, But they really don't get enough respect, and their numbers are crazy, and they are beautiful. It's just for whatever reason. If we could find a different name than sucker,
Their scientific name is moxostoma, right?
yeah, that's actually I bring a chart with because I still
We're
need
going
to identify.
we're going moxie fishing or something. I don't know.
Yeah, moxie. I like moxie.
Yeah, this fish has got moxie.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
you're going moxie fishing?
Yeah, we're going
You don't know what
moxie
that-
fishing. We're moxie
And then
anglers.
And then if someone says, sucker, you try and get it on your cell phone and post it online and show off their derogatory remarks to the species,
Right.
That's what you try and do these days. So
Well, so that's in the works. We're going to do that coming up. We're going to try to get, and honestly, this podcast we might actually drop that show before this podcast even.
possibly so.
Yeah, so wish us luck, and because this is a rite of spring. This is something that as a 43-year-old man, I don't want to be taking time and great fishing opportunities for granted anymore. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Like
and if you think about it, when's the last time we had a great outing? I mean, we got screwed over on our Mississippi trip, and then before that we went sturgeon fishing, but I basically stole your sturgeon because the rod was sitting there and you were holding a camera. We only got
Right.
one fish,
Right.
and it was 25 below.
Right.
And that was, I think, the only ice fishing fish I caught the entire year.
Yeah, it's
Crazy.
It's crazy, and I'm more inclined now to not let such time is your most valuable asset. Period.
Absolutely.
End of story. And there's no. I mean, it's not debatable. I was watching one of the dumb asses on Shark Tank. One of the investors, they call him the I don't know what it is.
Sounds like you're wasting time.
Well, right, exactly. Well, I turned it off pretty quick. One of the guys goes, "There's nothing more important than money." I'm like, dude, I was just like, okay.
It's so
He
crazy.
was such a scumbag. Anyway, anybody that
couldn't
knows the
even-
show probably knows who. It was Mr. Wonderful, his name, man.
Oh, God.
He's such a jerk, dude. He's like, but good for him. Live your stupid life. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I can't even imagine putting a price tag. Like if we get to fish for 12 hours uninterrupted, and the other thing about it, your cell phone doesn't work down there, which is just a huge bonus.
Yeah.
If you get 12 hours of sunshine fishing and that first sunburn of the year, I couldn't put a price on that. you know?
Exactly. It's not. I understand we need to have money. You have to have money to survive, but
Yeah.
time is still more
You got to
important
fit
than
it
money.
in. You got to fit that beautiful fresh air, that whole thing. You just got to fit it in for mental stability,
Right. So I just don't want to take those moments for granted anymore. I just don't
Agreed.
want to. It's not. I mean, I know when you get older, if you're younger listening to this, as you get older, you start having this life experience. You start seeing you just get more life experience under your belt. And what that means is you see people dying all around you. Like more and
Yeah.
more people are dead that were really special in your life. You know what I mean? Like really very special people.
Right,
You
and
see
it
them
shouldn't
die.
take that. And it shouldn't take that to wake you up
It
because you know it's
shouldn't.
coming, but you just never are ready for it. You know, like you can't prepare for it mentally.
And then eventually your dumb ass realizes that, yeah, you got limited time on this planet. You know,
Right.
and what are you doing throwing? I mean, you know, I have sleep apnea, and I think it's so much before I got my CPAP machine. So many times I was exhausted. I'd fall asleep. I'd be falling asleep in the middle of the day, and just I think all that wasted time. And I guess my point is I'm just so grateful now that I'm not exhausted like I used to be.
Right.
Because I'm like, okay, we got stuff to get done now, man. You know, it's like I do not want to take this life for granted. I don't want to take my experiences with my best bud Pete for granted.
Yeah.
Our fishing trips, the species that we can target.
I hear you, because it is trickier and trickier. I mean, just getting out alone is sort of a battle between what life throws at you, but let alone getting out together is the trick, you know? Because when I'm out fishing with you, it takes me right back to 7 years old summer vacation. You know?
Amen, brother. Same
And it's
here.
hard to get there, you know? It's like hard to get in that mindset sometimes because life just kind of washes you away, but the Driftless is like my isolation booth from the world. You know, you get in there,
Yeah,
you can't
man.
be contacted. It's such a great place
Well,
to be. but-
you know that area really, really well, dude. I mean, you're basically, whenever I go down that area, you're my guide, you know?
Oh, that's all I do is explore. And even when I trout fish now, I make sure if I have a full day, I'll spend half a day on my favorite section of the stream and half a day exploring new water because there's more than I can there's 900 miles of publicly accessible streams in the Driftless.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, think about that.
well,
That's
you
insane.
explain what the Driftless is in case people listening don't know.
I think I've explained it before, but it's
Well,
it's southeast.
remember, we're worldwide now, dude, on all
That's true.
platforms.
Southeastern Minnesota, what would it be? It's southeastern Minnesota, northeastern Iowa, parts of northwestern Illinois, and parts of southwestern Wisconsin.
Right,
make
that's
up
right.
The Driftless.
That's right.
And it's an unglaciated area. Well, the most recent run of glaciers did not touch this area, and it left all this limestone intact that was slowly carved out by running water as the glaciers around it melted, and created just an abundance of springs popping out of limestone bluffs and a protected forest. I mean, you can't do much with the land just because it's so rugged. And it's just full of trout rivers. It's like the most overlooked trout fishing in the entire country, and I don't say that lightly. Everybody knows about out west. Even Pennsylvania seems to be popular, or Arkansas, as far as that same sort of limestone fishing. But for some reason, this area does not get the attention it needs. Part of it is because Minnesota is so famous for fishing for everything else. So it's completely forgotten about, and it just is left all to me. I just get, every time I've got a day off, I live in the Driftless now. I can drive 15 minutes and never see another person on any stream I want. It never gets old to me. It's the greatest thing ever. So
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we time it right and we get on them, and we'll
Yep.
make a video out of it. And yeah,
And
it's fun. It's a fun deal, and these fish are available pretty much everywhere in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So
if for some reason they're not cooperating, I think we're just going to buzz back to the boat and head to the big river. It's the bailout plan. So I don't think I'm going to have a chance to get over there and recon like I did last time, just because the week's already getting away from me.
yeah,
And the other thing is, I own a grocery store, right? Which normally I've got, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13 kids that work for me. Bunch of
Wow.
great kids. But
it's a lot of responsibility, man.
this weekend is prom weekend.
Oh no.
And this was my glitch. Like, even after I committed to this, I was like, oh, that's right, it's prom. So I'm supposed to be, dealing with all that. Every kid is gone except for one. So I'm bringing in adults that don't normally work on the weekends, and everyone's kind of helping out and doing what I can. So I'm going in both days, one day. So I might even go in real early that Saturday, and you just get here when you can, but sooner the better.
Yeah, 10-4 on that, man.
All right.
So if I kind of seem like I'm kind of maybe not paying attention as much as I should be during this podcast, it's because my dog is outside, and at some
Right.
point my dog is going to be scratching on the door or howling. I have a American foxhound,
Is that? But she's okay out there, just running free.
No, she's on a. We got her on a what do you call it? A run, you know? It's like.
But she'd rather be inside. She gets bored quickly.
Well, not necessarily. These temperatures now, she can sniff out there for a while. But then when she's ready to come in, she starts throwing a fit.
Well, and I also have made the mistake of purchasing a dog within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I love animals, but
I do too. They're so
do
great,
cut
but
into
I'm
your
just
fishing,
like,
dude.
oh, they can't do that. I'm hoping not, but it is going to be complicated, especially like this is going to be like a 6-week-old puppy, you know. So things are going to get chaotic. We haven't even picked it up or told the kids or anything yet, so it's going to be kind of
I just heard her scratch, so you're going to have to, I'll do this as quickly as possible, but you're going to have to carry this podcast for about 20 seconds.
It shouldn't be a problem. Greg's not paying attention anyway, but I've worked myself into an Aussie Doodle for a dog, if you don't know what that is. Half Aussie, half poodle, I believe. It is some sort of non-shedding, really sweet-looking dog, but obviously I don't believe a hunting dog, more of a herding dog. But it's going to be pretty cool. And you can hear Greg going through his motions, letting his dog back in. You can't hear us, but we can hear him because he's walking around with a wireless mic. So hopefully everything is good over there. But
everything's good. I'm working everything out.
Good. I'm going to start jumping into a couple of topics. That
I'm coming, Pete. I'm coming. Dog is recently.
Recently, the Rainy River is a river on the northern border between Canada and the United States.
Hey, Pete, I'm back.
Hey, what's up?
Okay, sorry about that.
I was just going into talking about the changing rules on the Rainy River for walleye fishing. Have you heard about this?
No.
So forever, and I'm not even sure how this is regulated, but most border waters are open to fishing all year. And for whatever reason, the Mississippi gets pressure down here, but it's such a amazing fishery, it seems to replicate itself. There's no stocking, and the pressure doesn't seem to affect anything down here, even with multiple lines.
Yeah, right. But what do you say there? You know, like, I mean, there's no regulations pretty much on the border waters, and like multiple lines, and like those fish seem to be doing darn good, dude. There's big bill walleye. Yeah.
There's not one species that suffers from it. So I honestly don't even know how the limits work, or I know it's crazy though. I know if you go perch fishing, you get 3 guys in the boat, you can bring home almost 50 perch. You know. So there's obviously it's just a pretty awesome thing. But the Rainy River, I always thought, is an invincible watershed. I mean, that flows, into Lake of the Woods, I believe, into it, right? Because it flows north. And talk about a walleye fishery. I mean, Lake of the Woods is, kind of the cream of the crop. But for the first time, because of a warming climate,
are we getting controversial again? You know how many people are. If Detro's listening to this, Detro.
He goes up to Rainy all the time.
And
there's no debating that it's warmer, because there used to be ice now where there's not. And you can look at the numbers, it's warmer for whatever reason. I'm not here to debate that. Don't want to get Detro fired up. He's had a tough year. He's had a mixed bag of a year. He's had some great moments, and he's had some terrible moments. Caught the biggest fish in Minnesota history, and then was accused of fraud by millions of jealous fishermen. But so now what they're doing is they had to make the Rainy River catch and release for this part of the season.
Really?
Because now boats can get out there and fish it like crazy. So, what used to be just, honestly, I don't even know what they used to do, but it's one of the nation's best walleye rivers, and it was the best time of the year to catch the game fish. But now nobody's able to take them home, which is kind of a bizarre thing. But I don't know how you manage a border water for catch and release. Like,
is Canada? Yeah, right, yeah.
Canada's got to be on board with that, I guess, somehow.
Well, I mean, admittedly, I've done shows on the Rainy, on the Rainy River and Lake of the Woods, and admittedly, dude, I don't know that area very well. I don't know what parts of the Rainy border. I mean, does all of it border Canada, the Rainy River?
I think it does. I think that's for a pretty big section, I think that's the border up there, Oh,
okay.
But, the ice out used to be into the third week of April. And like in 2016, it was out of there in like the second or first week of March.
Wow.
Yeah, so now...
So they're saying, so basically, so they're the DNR, Minnesota DNR is basically saying that they, because the water, because there's ice out happening sooner and more boats can get on the water, they have to protect it. That's why they're making a catch and release. That's what you're telling me?
Yeah, I just pulled up the article. Article is in the Star Tribune. It was a pretty good article. And it says, one of the paragraphs says, the DNR went to catch and release because it wants to increase the number of male walleyes that make it to the spawning grounds of the Rainy River. The spring season is typically designed to protect larger spawning females. Anglers can normally keep walleye under 19 and a half. But because the walleye are being taken during ice fishing season these days and the ice is thawing earlier, the DNR wanted to ensure that it would have a healthy male population during spawning season no matter what happens with the ice. Huh. So that's a big shift in culture up there,
Right, yeah.
Because that was kind of like a go-to. But again, I don't understand completely how that works with Canada involved, I thought they could do what they wanted if you're on the Canadian side, but...
Yeah, that's
because it's a different country. Like, are you allowed to be on the other side of the river? Like
I mean, you can. I mean, you just have a Canadian fishing license.
Right, but I mean, legally, if you don't have a Canadian fishing license, can you fish the other shore?
If you don't have a Canadian fishing license and you're gonna go into Canada,
because like Minnesota, Wisconsin
I would imagine. Go ahead.
There's an imaginary line down the center of the Mississippi, but if you have a Minnesota license, you can be anywhere on the river and fish it, or vice versa. But in Canada, wherever that exact borderline is, which I'm assuming is on the middle of the river, you can't get to that other side unless you have some sort of passport card or a passport, because you can't just go into Canada anymore.
Right.
And then you would need an Ontario fishing license, right?
Right.
So I don't know exactly how that works. So if you have all that, can you go to the Canadian side of the river and fish?
Yeah.
Or if you're out... and if you don't have a passport, you can't cross over the middle of the river, essentially. Is that how that works up there?
Gosh, I don't know if you need a passport or... It used to be all you needed was a birth certificate.
Yeah, well, that's a different game now. In fact, I'm actually paddling... I'm paddling into Canada this year. I just got my Boundary Waters trip planned.
Uh-huh.
This is just a really interesting adventure because I wanted to get as deep as I could this year because I'm not getting any older or younger, which we had just discussed.
Right.
And that trip is hard. That is not an old man's game up there.
No.
So I'm going all the way to the end of the Gunflint Trail, like up until the end of the road. And then there's an outfitter there that is taking us across Lake Saginaw, which is a huge border lake up there. Half of it's Quetico, half of it's... Quetico is the Canadian version of Boundary Waters. It's a little more rustic. So they put all your canoes and your gear on a motorboat, because Saginaw is a motorboat lake, even though it's technically in the Boundary Waters.
Uh-huh.
And they take you as far as they can until you're on the edge of the no-motor Boundary Waters. And then we unload, we get in our canoes, and then we paddle to a ranger station that's on the border. There's just some ranger that lives out there. And to do this, so then we buy day passes for the Quetico. So we're staying on the border in the Boundary Waters, but we can paddle into Canada during the day, which is a lot less pressured fishing. There's no live bait. You can't bring lead jigs, which seems perfectly acceptable. I can't believe they still allow that everywhere else. And it's just going to be like this, I had to go through and purchase everything I needed to get through there. And I needed an Ontario fishing license. I got like a 7-day conservation license. And I needed they tell me, the outfitter says, in 30 years, nobody's ever needed a passport. But if you ask Canada, they say you do. And this is a weird area when you're in the woods up there.
Right.
But what you do need, they call it a RABC, which stands for like some sort of remote entry. It's like a remote area of Canada entry that allows, it's like a permit to go across the border. But at the same time, they're not saying you don't need a passport, but they do tell you to bring your birth certificate and driver's license with. So it's almost like the rules get different when you're in those remote areas.
Well, do you have to have a Canadian fishing license? Yeah, you have to have a Canadian, yeah.
Yep. So
Okay,
I have to pay for day passes in the Quetico. I have to pay for the remote border entry, and that's an application that takes like 6 weeks. So I got to get that in because I'm leaving in like 8. And I have a passport anyway, but 2 of the guys don't, and they're telling me, well, don't worry about it. Not Canada, but the outfitter on the American side has been doing it 30 years.
Well, I would say err on the side of caution because for my job, man, going into Canada with all this, all my gear and everything, it's a tremendous pain.
Oh, and she said if you have a DWI, don't even bother applying.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I've with the gear, equipment, video equipment, they've said, oh, you need to have this thing called a carnet. I've gone into Canada with all my gear for shoots before, and they don't say a word to me. Oh, go ahead.
What's a carnet?
It's I don't even know what it is, to be honest with you. But it's basically, it's saying, my understanding is that it's saying, hey, this is my gear.
It's a document or something?
It's a document, yes. It's a document. If I remember correctly, it's a document that's basically saying that you've been invited into Canada from this lodge. It's going to help Canadians, and this is you're bringing in gear, but you're not going to sell your gear, and you'll be coming back to this.
Oh, right.
Frankly, I'm done. It's so stupid. As human beings, we got to get past all this nonsense and just we just love each other. Is this?
It's getting more chaotic too. I know. It's just so stupid.
It's so stupid. But anyway, so it's I've done, not to like location drop here, but I've done shoots. I did a shoot in Japan one time where I had to get all this paperwork, and I brought the paperwork, and I'm giving it to the person there when you get into Japan, and they're looking at it like, what do I do with this? I don't know what this is. Like the people even at the border don't even know what to do half the time. It's nonsense, bureaucratic garbage, red tape, and people just. Humans are. We got to get past this nonsense.
Oh my God! You know what was really ridiculous is when I was filling out the remote border application. There's a big thing on there that says, yes, marijuana is completely legal in Canada, but it is a crime to bring marijuana into Canada. It's the first thing on it's the first thing on the application. Like, oh yeah, it's completely legal for the entire country, but if you have it on you, and we can prove you brought it in, you're in trouble.
Because if you sell the substance in Canada that is legal in Canada that you brought in from, somehow that's a detriment to Canada, but it's already legal. Right. I mean, again, that's another example. It's politics. It's mostly politics. It's politicians. It's all politics. Which I don't like. I mean, the majority of politicians. Look, hey, Biden's running. Are you excited about Biden running?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm exhausted by all of it, but as far as like, you can be making an argument for commerce. Like, you don't want to be, you should be regulating products that cross your border to protect your own businesses.
And maybe that's what it is.
It's somewhat of that, but for the most part, I can't imagine there's going to be any hippies in canoes in the boundary waters, with any weed in their backpacks. That's unlikely to happen, right?
Absolutely. No, that's very unlikely. All right, should we move on?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I want to tell you about something really stupid that happened to me recently. The last 3 weeks, I've had some issues with my my left leg. My left leg has been really bothering me, right?
Yeah.
And like for no reason. I didn't trip. I didn't pull it, pull a muscle. Or I'm like, why is my left leg bothering me so much? It just felt crampy. You know what I mean? Like sore.
Right, hard to sleep, like.
Yeah, well, not hard to sleep, but anytime I'd get up, it was like, I'd start limping because my left leg hurt. Well, yesterday, I told my wife about it, and she's like, well, this has been going on for 3 weeks. We got to get this test checked out, My wife is a nurse.
Yep.
And she's like, you could have a blood clot, and you could die from that. I'm like, all right, we're getting this checked out. So I had an ultrasound on my leg last night. Ultrasound. Everything checked out. But I will say during that ultrasound, very interesting, dude. Like, have you ever had an ultrasound done?
Well,
a
I've
body
had
part?
one with a baby.
Okay,
I've
well,
had one.
if you've ever, it's kind of awkward because first of all, it's a female nurse. Okay, she takes me into a dark room, and she goes, I'm gonna take this device and I'm gonna put it by your groin. I'm like, all right.
Because that's like a likely clotting area.
Well, right. That's where she basically follows that artery down to where I was feeling the pain. You know, she needed to make
Right.
sure that everything's flowing well.
Whatever.
And
We all know her intentions.
right. And so I'm like thinking, and so then to get to this little wand that's the ultrasound, you know, that they put on your skin, you know, she's trying to get an image of my deep veins in my leg to see if there's any clotting. Well, she takes this lubricant and just like she's putting mustard on a hot dog, but on my
Right.
leg.
It's like KY jelly or something.
Yes, dude. And she
Yeah.
starts over and over, like on my groin but on my and on my thigh, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, what if I started to get aroused right now?
Yeah.
I wasn't aroused, but I'm thinking to myself, there has definitely been a time that someone's gotten aroused.
There's potential for arousement.
Totally. Luckily, that didn't happen, but it did enter my mind. I'm like, oh, can you imagine? You know?
And is it the same hospital your wife works at or no?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That would not be helpful.
Right,
It's
exactly.
one of her
No.
coworkers.
Right, exactly. So, but I'm in this hospital gown, but I've got the hospital gown pulled up, you know, so they can get to my groin area. I'm like, what if I start getting aroused right now? You know? I mean, I wasn't, but what if certainly that's happened before.
Oh
You
my
know?
God! Of course it has.
So my point in this story is I'm so stupid. I realize I realized he says, yeah, did you hear that? What a
just walked
jerk.
me right into
what
that.
a jerk.
I'm just trying to confirm what you're saying.
So I basically I realized just today what's caused this. The most likely culprit of my sore left leg is podcast, let me see, 11 and 12, I believe it was. Podcast 11 and 12, I stood up the whole time for. Podcast
you had
11,
you had a podcast injury.
I've stood up for 11 and 12, and for me, we don't have camera guys. We're filming ourselves, so I have to frame myself perfectly, and I can't move around too much. So I made sure that during that hour and so long, those hour or so long podcasts we did, that I was staying in one area for the most part. Well,
a good way to do that, you know, is with a chair. That keeps you.
Well,
like,
now
really...
I've learned. Now I'm sitting in a chair. But my
love
point
that.
is, dude, I'm almost 100% sure now that my
Right.
leg was that way because of our podcast.
That's so great. That's so great. I'm pretty sure I had a knee X-ray this week too, which is funny for other reasons. And I thought for the longest time that I was just doing a lot of driving, and the way I was holding my foot on the pedal was just making my leg hurt, you know? But I'm pretty sure that I'm just getting old and
Yeah.
things hurt, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm hoping my knee isn't too
Dude,
screwed up.
yeah, it's just like we're up there. Heck, you're 3 years older than I am, and I'm, right? You're 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, right now you're 2. You're 45.
And I'm strapped in the boundary waters, you know, I'm throwing 70 pounds on my back and walking on wet, rounded rock surfaces, and it's just like...
You always come back looking very svelte, though. You know what I mean? Like,
it's good for
it's
me.
good for you.
I'm just like, but if a knee goes down or an ankle goes down,
no.
like everybody's trip is over. You know, like you got to make sure you're in top-notch condition. So
Yeah, it's no messing around. You know, so
No.
you were talking about so the Rainy River and the walleye fishing on the Rainy River, legendary. But have you heard what's going on in North Dakota with a species very close to the walleye?
what's that?
Someone has put Zander in North Dakota, in like these sloughs and like these canals, like it's. I've learned about this from Target Walleye. I'm on the Target Walleye newsletter now.
And you may want to explain, is this related to that guy that set the record? Because they called that a walleye.
It's pretty obvious. Well, it's not obvious. They're very similar to a walleye. but they don't have that white. I don't think they have that white. Spot on their tail fin.
Yeah, it maybe explains what Zander is for those who aren't.
So a Zander is it's a walleye, and it shows you that at one point all the continents were connected. Because if Zander are European, imagine a European walleye. Okay, that's what a Zander is, but they get much bigger than walleye. They're beasts.
Much like their pike do the same thing, huh?
Yeah. So someone has stocked, and I'm trying to figure out. I have the newsletter in front of me right now, the Target Walleye newsletter, where they're talking about it, and they're in this newsletter. It's saying that the North Dakota Game and Fish might be poisoning off the lakes to avoid them from spreading anymore. So because they've already gotten into other sloughs.
Are they a threat?
Well,
I guess they are. How would you even get a Zander? Like, where's this? South Dakota, North Dakota?
And I believe this is Brett McComas who writes these articles. I'm not 100% sure on that, but Brett subscribes to Another Fishing Show, our YouTube channel. Thank you, Brett. Fan of ours.
We're a fan of his.
Yes. So we have no way of, this is what it says, we have no way of knowing the long-term effects if they were to get into any other lakes or rivers. Though with any exotic species, it's usually negative. So what's interesting about Zander as opposed to walleye are broadcast spawners. Kind of like maybe how you were in college, Pete. You were, let's say, a broadcast spawner.
Please tell me more.
So what that means is a female it means you just spread your seed to the wind if you're a male. Okay? Suckers are broadcast spawners.
Right.
Largemouth bass are not broadcast spawners. Largemouth bass, they make a nest. The male fans out the nest. The female comes over, deposits her eggs. They both guard them for a while. Then the female takes off, and the male pretty much takes the responsibility of guarding the nest. Zander are also nest builders. They're not broadcast spawners.
Really?
So it's super interesting. Isn't that interesting?
That's a bizarre evolution.
Isn't that crazy? But they look, it totally is. But they look almost exactly like a walleye. And yet they get much bigger. All their features are much more pronounced, I'd say. Everything's bigger on them, you know?
Yeah.
Super cool fish. So someone, someone put them in North Dakota. And what are the negative aspects? I don't know. Probably, maybe nothing.
I'm curious, like, they probably just don't know, and they just fear that cultural revolution of the walleye being replaced. I mean, in Minnesota that happened, that would, they'd burn this state down.
So that's a cool thing going on, and there's people going up there to just experience, right now. There's like Zander tourism in North Dakota right now.
I would love to find out the story of how that Zander got from point A to point B.
Yeah. Yeah, great point.
Where do you get that? Like, is that on someone's airplane, and then they purposely, or was there some sort of rearing pond that
right?
Or what's going on?
To me, it's I don't know. It sounds very possible that the North Dakota DNR were maybe doing some tests,
Yeah.
And they had, like you said, a rearing pond, where they were just exploring the idea of putting Zander in somewhere, It
sounds
and
like
they
a
got
Marvel
loose.
movie.
It sounds like a Marvel movie or a horror movie.
The most boring Marvel movie of all time. And speaking of Europe, I sent you a link for this too. Did you take a look at the world record carp?
I have not. Is this thing just? Let me look here.
So it broke the previous record by 5 pounds.
Okay.
And you cannot believe the shape of this animal. So I'm looking, and this is a big European thing, and I've seen this magazine before. It's actually a great magazine. It's called Angler's Mail.
Okay.
And it's an English magazine, but it's like $200 a year for a subscription.
Wow.
It's a weekly rough fish. I mean, they cover everything, but they're obsessed with carp fishing out there,
Yeah.
So this is a 108-pound carp.
Is it a mirror carp or a common
I
carp?
can't tell. You'll have to take a look at it. They
I'm
just call
opening it right
carp.
now. I can't wait to see this.
And it's almost as round as it is long. I think the picture, you just can't believe the way it's shaped, that it actually swims around and does anything but, how... It can't even get his mouth to the ground.
Really?
His mouth is a good 12 inches above its belly. So I suppose it could get his mouth to the ground if it tipped forward like a basketball. Imagine a sucker on a basketball, and if you rolled it the right way, the sucker would make contact with the ground.
You're gonna. I hate to give you more work on this podcast, but if people are just watching this on YouTube, we're gonna have to show this fish, because if I was watching this on YouTube, I'm like, how can you not show this?
Well, that's why I'm giving the website. If you look up world record carp, and put in Angler's Mail, it'll come up.
Okay.
Or just put in world record carp. I mean, this picture is going to come up.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, dude, it's giant. It's got a belly on it, like.
Look at the lower picture. Like, there's one up top where there's the splashing. But look at the one below.
Wow, dude. The 51. The 51.
Yeah, 5120.
Yeah, that is
Isn't
amazing.
that crazy?
I'm pretty sure that sun, though, is not real. The sun peeking through the trees there, I don't think that's a real sun peeking.
No, that looks totally fake. Yeah. It looks like over Bethlehem on Christmas.
Yes, exactly. That's a North Star.
But what is going on there?
Oh my God! Have you seen the video here, dude?
No, I haven't even watched it.
Oh my, yeah, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. It's the most it's this carp is probably one of those you ever watch the show Hoarders?
Yeah.
That's like that carp. That carp is probably a hoarder in the water world. You know what I mean? Like it's
wrong.
It's not. It had to be cut out of its house.
And that is that a mirror carp? There's no scales.
I don't see any scales, but that's the fattest fish I've ever seen in my life, dude.
But sometimes mirror carp have 10 or 20 big scales, you know what I'm talking about? Like, I don't know, I want to catch one of those things.
Yeah, it's so fat that all the scales popped off of it.
They did. They're coating the
Actually,
bottom
I do see some scales on the tail fin, the caudal peduncle, I believe is the...
Is that what that is?
I believe that's what, if you're a carp fisherman, a specialized European carp fisherman, you're very sophisticated.
Oh my God, they really are too. They have these insane line detectors, these digital line detectors, and it really does fascinate me, like how
that's amazing.
Is how different the culture is. Just the way people see carp, and you cross an ocean, and it's like it's their walleye.
Yeah, no doubt. They're an amazing fish. They're actually, supposedly, I read in Fisherman years ago, that they're supposed to be like the smartest freshwater fish, or close to the smartest freshwater fish.
Yeah.
God, that is something. That is great.
Yeah.
I'm looking, if you scroll down, there's a picture of a carp that we're more used to seeing. It's a common carp. And the biggest carp landed from France was 100 pounds. So you see this common carp, 100-pound common carp.
Oh, I see.
You see that, dude?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Like
it doesn't look that different from a 30.
It doesn't at all. It's just so that's it's what's interesting about it is, like, why can't we grow a carp in this country, especially since they're unpressured here?
Why is it different? So, like you said, the pike and the Zander, and also the catfish, like the Wells catfish, they're insane. And this even says it right above that carp photo. It says, well-maintained Euro aqua fishery holds many more giant carp, plus catfish, Zander, and pike.
Oh.
And packages can be booked to fish there.
Okay.
But all those fish are like weird versions of North American fish that get way bigger. Like, why is they have the same thing going on there? It's the same water. What's going on?
Well, this is what's going on here. This is why they're producing these just monstrosities, dude. Is that it came from the incredible Euro. This world record came from the incredible Euro aqua fishery in Hungary,
right?
Which has dominated mega carp headlines in recent years. Absolutely. So to equate it to, like hunting, there's ranches that specialize in whitetail, like giant whitetails.
That's kind of ridiculous,
like,
huh?
It's, high fences for these whitetail, and then they just breed them huge. That's what they're doing here with carp, man.
It's kind of a weird way to fish, It's like that thing is so morbidly obese.
Dude, it's Jurassic Park.
It is. It's not like you're even fishing for... it just feels like a weird way to catch a world record.
Well, it's almost... I kind of feel like it's... I don't know. These guys that are trophy hunters, it kind of annoys me.
Yeah, a wild fish it's kind of a wild fish, but...
But I guess I shouldn't say these trophy hunters. I should say these trophy hunters that go to these places, whether it be, hunting or... where it's, you're basically, these fish are pets, or these creatures are pets, kind of, and they're just growing to monstrous sizes. That's probably a controversial statement. I don't give a damn.
What they do out there is it's legal to, they'll throw that feed to sort of bait carp. Like, they'll go out there in the afternoon and throw pellets into the ponds where they're going to fish.
Yeah.
And then that brings the fish in at sunset, so it ups your chances, which feels different to me than basically, I don't know how big this lake is, but fishing in an area where, there's just giant obese carp. They can't be doing anything but eating bacon. Man, that thing probably threw up like 10 pounds of bacon. What's going on,
Yeah, the thing that's so interesting about it is how... the culture of carp is completely different, obviously, here in the States. Where they are just considered to be the grossest of fish. They're not worthy of really targeting by most anglers. And then Europe, they are just the more slovenly, giant belly, like just nastiness. Like that's cool. They don't. It's weird. It's just they put this fish on such a pedestal.
Dude, I'm looking at Ural Aqua right now.
Yeah.
On a map, on the satellite image of it.
It's probably what, 1 acre?
It's Philly's Pond.
Yes. Yep. There it is.
It's not even next to...
Explain what Philly's Pond is.
So Philly's Pond is like this man-made pond we grew up near. And it was just basically, it used to be 8 feet deep when we were kids, maybe 6, and now it's like 2 feet deep because it just silted out. They basically dug it out of black soil and created a pond. Yeah. Philly's hard to explain. He's kind of enigma. One of Greg's relations. Yeah. You really need a photo of this place.
Actually, we're not blood, but...
Yeah, but it was, basically a mud pond on a prairie, and then for a while it was full of bullheads and sunnies, is where we learned to love to fish, So near it, there's a huge lake called Balaton.
Okay.
And again, this is in Hungary. I know nothing about Hungary other than, so we're talking north of Greece and south of Poland.
Okay.
But Ural Aqua is just like a facility. I think it's man-made, the pond. I can't tell.
It's probably totally man-made.
It's not square, but it is shaped, and they're just like feeding fish. And you can even see some buildings nearby that might be like rearing ponds, indoor facilities and stuff, unless they're just farms. But there's a resort on the edge too. How weird is that? And then right next to it, there's an amusement park called Western Park, and it looks like the most depressing thing I've ever seen before. And I'm just looking at the satellite image, but it looks like a place where a tornado went over it or something.
Dude,
what is going on?
I think it's interesting. Europe is kind of. It seems like the fishing in Europe, there's areas that are just fantastic, but there's a lot of areas where it's like they go after. You ever heard of a roach? Like roach? They're these little, they look like kind of a beefy chub.
Is it a type of fish they love to fish for?
Well, yeah, that they target. And you look at it, you're like, well, that's just a big minnow. And so I think there's a lot of places like there's some very depressed kind of areas like in Europe where there's just not a lot of opportunities, and
I guess that might be some of it.
And so they do, I think they make these kind of, what would you call them? It's kind of a fishing amusement center, a fishing.
It is.
So it's a pay lake. I imagine you pay to get in there, probably a lot, and then you can catch possibly a record carp. But
it feels dirty to me, though.
Well, like, it is kind of. It is. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at photos. It does seem like it's kind of that. Yeah, that European thing, dude. There isn't. Sometimes there's not a whole lot of places for these guys to really.
I'm on their website right now, and it's in Hungarian, and it says Fischen der Superlative, and then it shows a picture of a pike, and it says Euro Aqua Fishing Guiding Service.
Yeah,
and then
it's a That's
so you can't even get a booking till 2020.
There it is. Yeah, it's
an old gravel pit.
It's an old gravel pit. Yeah, is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
since 1962, gravel has been mined on the site. The resulting lake with fish stock that has existed since then has developed into enormous size of currently 11.3 HA. I don't know what's translating. The gravel extraction was just finished at the end of 2004.
Yeah. So you're basically looking at an engineered lake for fishing.
Oh my God, they have just a ton of pictures too, and it's kind of in the vineyard. So, like, if you wanted to go have a fine glass of wine and catch a 100-pound carp, I guess Euro Aqua is the place to do it.
Fantastic.
They have a picture of a largemouth on here, not a live picture, but like a cartoon of one. But I'm not seeing any pictures of largemouth. But you would think at some point they have some huge Wells catfish. But like, how can you sustain all of this?
I don't know, man.
Massive Zander, giant common carp and mirror carp. And then big pike.
Yeah, so I said, I think there's some areas that are awesome in Europe, but I think there's a lot of areas where the fishing is pretty lacking. So I don't know if that's the case for Hungary or in this particular area of Hungary, but it kind of seems like that. But Pete, I got to let you know. So I'm looking at how much time I have left on my camera here. I only have 2 minutes left.
Oh my God! Well, we've been rolling here for a good hour, I think.
Have you enjoyed it?
I have. There was a bunch of stuff I wanted to get to, and we get diarrhea of the mouth and don't get to it. But I guess we can save it for next time.
Sure. Yeah. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I want to bring up that I think is groundbreaking, but we're gonna have groundbreaking. I'm exaggerating here, but yeah, we're gonna have to wrap it up. We'll get to it later.
All right, that's fine. Well, everybody, please check out Euro Aqua Fishing for the trip of a lifetime. I know you carp fishermen are desperate to find a place to fish for carp, and apparently it's in a gravel pit in Hungary. So it's
book your tickets now.
It's as glamorous as you thought carp fishing was. It really is. So me and Greg and I are going to find some rough fish ourselves this week. Hopefully, we got a sunny Saturday, and that will be coming your way. So. As usual, I want to remind everybody to not leave your night crawlers in the sun. I don't know if you've ever smelled what it smells like when you leave your night crawlers in the sun, but it is the worst smell to humans in the world. Other than like a decomposing human, I think this is probably number 2. So please do not leave your crawlers in the sun, and you can take my wisdom with you, and we will see you next time.
Don't forget, Pete, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And everywhere else on social media. Just search Another Fishing Show.
We're super social. And listen to Another Fishing Podcast wherever you can listen to podcasts. Please give us lots of comments. Be critics. Be complimentary. We don't care. Just be in contact with us and tell us what you want. Give us some good show ideas. So we will see you guys next time. This wraps up Another Fishing Podcast number 14. Thanks, guys.